Welcome to the AI and Education Podcast. What have you been up to this week, Ray, with AI?
I tell you what, Dan. Look, close your little Microsoft ears to this one. But, Dan, I pressed the Copilot button on my keyboard by mistake. And I realise it's by mistake because I realised I don't press it normally because I have an external keyboard on my laptop when I'm working at home or in the office, and it doesn't have a Copilot button on it. But I happen to be working on my laptop, and I pressed the Copilot button, and it popped up. Well, it didn't pop up Copilot. No, and
Really?
this is why it's interesting, because I think this might be helpful for other people, because it popped up ChatGPT. And that reminded me that when I got my Surface laptop with the Copilot button, I thought, I don't use Copilot that much. My big thing at the time was ChatGPT. So I used Power Toys in Windows that lets you map any key to anything. And so what I did was I remapped the Copilot button to Windows and 7, like you're holding down the Windows key and pressing 7. Now, Dan, here's a question for you. Do you know what Windows 7 does?
Windows 7. What does
Do you know
Windows
what
7?
Windows
No, go on,
1
tell me
does?
what Windows 7 does. I don't know. I never use Windows 1 or Windows. It's probably like it's not F1.
So what Windows 1 does is it launches the first program in your taskbar. And Windows 2 launches the second app. And I obviously had ChatGPT in the 7th position on my...
Yes.
Here's what I then did is I went back into Power Toys and said, okay, I want the Copilot button to be Windows 1. And then whichever is the current AI tool of the day, I put that in the one position on my taskbar.
That's a clever idea, because then you can just...
Yeah, so I'm doing a whole load of coding and technical stuff. I'm using Claude. If I'm doing some data analytics, I might be using Copilot. If I'm doing some stuff with my calendar, it's handy because now it's reminded me that that button is there, but I've made it what I want, not just launching Copilot. Is that okay to say that, Dan?
And you know it's the 7th one. Does it count the 7th app, the apps in a row, not like search and everything like that? Windows 1 is going to be the first app in your system tray.
Yeah, so you can get it to launch any position. I mean, you can do this for any key. You could set your F1 key to launch, the third app or whatever. It's a handy little thing.
Of course, But I love that idea. Did you do anything else with AI this week?
So a few weeks ago, I had an opportunity to play with an AI lesson creator that takes your learning materials and creates a lesson that you might put in your LMS, or it might deliver it separately or whatever. But the whole promise was it was grounded only on what you gave it. So it wasn't going to go off and make up stuff. It was using the materials you gave it. And this was an early prototype. So I had some materials that I use in my training courses. And so I gave it a bunch of that. And it said, oh, great, I've seen all these materials. I recommend we use this. It's like, great, go on. It's like, I recommend we do it in this way. It's like, great, go on. I recommend we structure it like this, and this is the activity where students like, great, go on. I am the human in the loop, right? I am checking each stage and going, yep, you've read exactly the right thing. Yep, you've interpreted this same way. Oh, yeah, I love that angle. Let's go for it. And then it said, I'm ready to create the resources. It's like, great, go ahead. Right. And then it did what only AI can do, is it forgot everything about the conversation we had except for the name of the early 20th century inventor. And instead of using the story that I'd given it, which is not available on the internet, it went and searched the internet and found out this person did something else and created a whole lesson and resources using that. And it's like, I checked off all these things. It's like if you had, a teaching assistant and you said, we're going to do a lesson about red balloons. Yeah, red balloons. And they're going to be flying. Yeah, flying red balloons. And then they come back with yellow lead weights or whatever. And so I said to the AI model, hey, we agreed you were going to do all of these things. And then you've come back with something completely different. And it said, yeah, I should have probably fessed up, shouldn't I? I mean, not in exactly these words, but it went, yeah, I lost all of that information. I had it and I lost it. So I just wrote something that I found on the internet instead.
I love these kind of things. One I found this week as well, actually, you probably know this already, but maybe our listeners don't, is that you can't get any LLM to count to 100 without interrupting themselves. It made me laugh because you kind of go, can you please count 1 to 100 without interrupting? And then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll keep going. 6, and I go, no, don't interrupt yourself. Just go 1 to 100. And they go, well, I understand you now, Dan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to keep going. 7, 8, 9. I'm like, it's like the things like that, and things you just mentioned where you got to keep reminding it, going, I didn't tell you that. It's a little bit funny, but if you're working on something which is quite important and you've got to keep reminding it, like if you've got references and you're doing things like that, and go, please preserve the references in my policy document here, and it completely like deletes them, and you're like, I asked you to
and this is
do
weird,
that.
isn't it? Because it's like working with the smartest person in the room and the dumbest person in the room at the same time. And you know, in a way, that's a bit like working with humans, because I have some friends. Oh, they may not count themselves as friends anymore. I have some friends that are incredibly smart but couldn't tie their own shoelaces. And that's kind of what AI feels like sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. This week, I'll tell you what I've been doing. I was at the UTS. I know we've mentioned it before in the pod, but they've got a transdisciplinary university course where they bring in legal people and health professionals doing their undergrad stuff, and then they do AI for Good hackathons. So I was there yesterday, and this is fantastic. They were just kind of with so many good projects, and what's really good as well these days is because usually those things are kind of cerebral and you end up with a lot written down and they present back in PowerPoint and all of this. Whereas nowadays they can come up with working solutions because they're using Claude and things like that and the Codex stuff, and they can actually say, oh, I've developed this already and this is what it looks like. Or they even use Copilot and things and said, give me create me a game like this that looks, with these particular, interfaces. So they're coming up with things that look real and are really, really interesting. So that was like phenomenal.
And Dan, I noticed that you must have been busy on the Microsoft front as well, because my goodness, there's new AI tools coming out every few minutes.
Oh yeah, it's left, right, and centre. Obviously, I don't know if we've mentioned in the pod, but the notebook stuff is now available for all users. So that means and it's really good. I did it for economics for my son the other day. He's doing his HSCs, which is a New South Wales course. In year 12 on economics, you put the syllabus in there and it can do infographics and it can do all of those things. Like we said about Notebook LM, you can do all your kind of like really fun stuff. And then you can also ask questions of it as well. Give me some example past papers or some questions on this particular topic. So there's things like that in there. There's a whole raft of things landing at ISTE for lots of different education providers this week. So definitely look out for the ISTE things that are landing.
And it's fascinating because it's both a mix of technology that has not been invented for education but has a use in education, and then specific things for education. There's just so much happening. So Dan, this is a news and research episode. I doubt we're going to get to the research.
Yes, it is.
My goodness, have we been holding up some news over the last couple of weeks and trying to kind of make sense of it all, because there's been a whole heap of things happening.
So what's the first one? Norway imposing a near ban on AI in elementary schools.
I mean, we've had social media bans in public. We've had mobile phone bans in schools. But Norway have said that they are going to restrict AI use, especially in their primary schools. I think this probably like aligns with the education research we're seeing, which is the earlier you give a child access to AI, the more likely they are to use it to skip the learning processes. Very severe restrictions in primary schools, some use in lower secondary, but only under teacher supervision. And then when they get to the age of 17, then they can use it more broadly in the preparation of their work. So if you think about the journey to employment, I guess that's where you can't just have a harsh cutoff and then enable it. You've got to start going there.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And going to the next one, I've got an interesting point on the next one. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. But what we've seen generally over the last 6 months, because it's graduation season in the US, a big pushback on AI and big tech executives doing their normal TED talk to the kind of matriculation speech or whatever to their grads moving out. And there's been a pointy end towards data centers, because that's a physical thing that people can see with AI, and the thing that they, can point to sustainability and all of these kind of things. And something's been happening in Australia
Yeah, so
recently
I
around
saw the
that,
story
right?
when you mentioned it to me, which was around a group of students in the Sunshine Coast. I mean, only Australia could have a place called the Sunshine Coast. But a group of students in the Sunshine Coast protesting about a new AI data center that's going to be built there. The data center is going to be built in Maroochydore, and it's a big partnership between Google and NextDC. NextDC are a data center company here. And the students are worried about the environmental impact, energy, water, all of that kind of effect, but also the effect on jobs and society. So if AI is doing things, will they have a job? Which is the same pushback we've been seeing at graduations and things. Uh, I've had exactly the same conversations in my family. My wife talked to me about noise created by data centers. And it's weird because I run past a data center every weekend, and you wouldn't know it's a data center. It's just a big, ugly building because there's no external thing. But the way that it's happened in America is in some of those data centers, because they don't have enough power, they just put hundreds of diesel generators there. And so who would want to live next to that? And so I think it's a
Yeah, yeah,
combination of a couple of things. One is, yes, it does use some water, but nowhere near as much as a golf course. But the second thing is,
yeah,
some of the shortcuts that are being taken to get these data centers up and available quickly are probably not in line with our values. Like, why would you power a data center on diesel generators? There's some
yeah.
fundamental questions you'd ask there. And so I think the Sunshine Coast students from the schools and the university coming out and protesting, and it was, a couple of dozen students. Great. I think we should be making sure that we're doing this in an ethical way, but I don't think we should stop doing it. We need data centers.
Yeah.
The downside is small relative to the benefit they potentially give us.
Yeah, and we will explore this later on, and we want to be balanced about this debate. It is very important, and sustainability in the planet is very important. So, like we'll continue to try to lean into this debate as best we can, because I suppose all data centers aren't equal, and different companies do different things, similar to any AI you might be using in a school or a business context as well. And it makes you think, a bit like we do with any technology that we use. What is the purpose behind that? And
You don't know where your data center is, the service you're using. If you're using Copilot, well, you're using an AI technology that comes from Microsoft, and Microsoft have got this commitment to net zero by 2030. And the same with Google. But, you might be using something that's running in a small local data center that was built 10 years ago and has got a pile of diesel generators. So, yeah, that kind of supply chain clarity is going to become important. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Dan, there has been, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, a huge pile of reports, analysis, market share things around AI. So many, in fact, that we haven't managed to fit them all into the podcast. I thought about maybe summarizing all of them, because they're all giving us a picture which is consistent, but then they're all looking at different angles. But then I thought what we'll do is, let's talk about each of the reports. We'll throw in a couple of interesting and useful numbers, and then let's talk about what it means at the end. The first one is called Navigating AI in Education, Pupils' Perspectives on the Role of AI in the Classroom. Now, this was from Oxford University Press, and this was focused on,
Correct.
okay, so what's the view of students and teenagers? And so here were their findings. Students are very unclear about the appropriate use of AI in education. For example, only 4 in 10 think it's cheating to use AI to complete all of your homework. So that means the majority of students do not think it's cheating to use AI to do your homework. Now, how could that be true when I suspect educators have this feeling that, well, we've told them again and again they should be using AI? But we're still there. The other thing is, students, thankfully, are hesitant about using AI as the default way for doing their schoolwork. So 3/4 choose not to use AI when they're given the option. It is interesting. They don't think it's cheating, but they're still not going to use it. And that's good news.
Right.
As we found out in series 11, when we interviewed all those students, they've got their heads screwed on. They know how to use this to help them from a learning perspective. Now, really interesting.
Absolutely.
3/4 of students have an awareness of the skills that AI can't replace. Like their teachers have told them that's something that only humans can do. Things like good communication, collaboration, the cognitive skills. Teachers have been
Yeah,
talking about that with their students.
it's good.
And
Yeah, that's great.
OUP found that pupils are generally excited about the impact of AI on education. And 3/4 want to see their teachers use AI more in lessons. Now,
Mm. Where was this
so this
data
was from the
from
UK.
then?
So this was from early
Right,
this year.
because it's Oxford
Yeah,
University
no,
Press,
no,
it
this
could be
is
global,
from
but
the
yeah,
UK.
okay, UK data.
And so the big
Okay.
theme that came out is this issue around cheating is students feel like they're in a grey area. Am I allowed to ask AI to give me a little bit of help with my homework? Am I allowed to get it to write me things? That grey area thing still persists.
Yeah,
And only 15% of students, that's 1 in 6, said that they've been given enough guidance from their school. Now,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is a
Education,
recurring number
education,
every
education.
time somebody does this research. Okay, now
Absolutely.
that was the
Yeah,
UK. There was also
yeah,
some research in America. This was from Common Sense Media, and it's called AI Use by Teens and Tweens.
yeah.
Okay, also published at the
Yay!
beginning of June.
Teenager.
They asked 2,000 US teenagers, 9 to 17-year-olds. And what they found were, so 86% of children have used generative AI tools. So 9 out of 10 kids have used AI. And nearly a quarter of them
Yeah,
use it every day. There's an age-based thing, so the
yeah,
older you are, the more likely you are to be using it on a regular basis. Top use
yeah,
is for entertainment or fun. Second biggest use, and there's
yeah,
almost no difference between these, is for schoolwork. Students use it for creating things like images, videos, stories, creating apps, students creating apps with it. Here's a worrying number. Nearly 6 out of 10 turn to AI for advice on their health or body. Now, we've talked about this
yeah,
before, and we've talked
yeah.
about how we
Common.
use it in that way, but I suspect we probably got a broader perspective that it's an input, not the final answer. 6 out of 10 have had an AI safety conversation with a parent or guardian. That's great news, isn't it?
Yeah. But it still makes me think because I don't. Most of the adults that I speak to in barbecues or whatever, they've got no idea with AI as well. They think AI is just ChatGPT, and they're not sure of the guardrails themselves.
Okay, so 6 out of 10 students say their school has discussed AI safety with them. And 3/4 say their school or a teacher in the school has talked to them about whether they should or shouldn't use AI.
The conversations are happening, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the next
Yeah,
one was around
yeah.
OECD, right? Because there's a whole heap of stuff coming from them at the minute through ISTE landing.
Well, Dan, have we got enough frameworks yet?
No, no.
Okay,
Can
so
we have
this is
another
like
one,
open
please, Ray?
standards from like 15 years ago. Is we've got 5 open standards, so we're going to create one that is the master of all. Now we have 6 open standards. So we've
Yeah,
got a new AI literacy framework. This is from OECD and the EU, the European Commission, OECD, and
yeah.
Code AI, which is a not-for-profit in America that's very central to all of this stuff. They have updated their AI literacy framework. It's for schools, not intended for anybody else. But when I looked at it, I thought, hey, this would be great for lifelong learning or for a company or for an individual. It talks about 4 key domains of AI literacy. So the key domains are engaging with AI, creating with AI, shaping AI, and managing AI.
Ooh,
And what I thought was
okay.
really key is I was looking through all the detail of those, really solid thread in there about humans, our agency, our creativity, our values, what it means to be human, and what our
Values.
role
Yeah.
is when we're using this
Mm.
technology.
Yeah, that's so good, isn't it? But there is also polarizing views from educators at the minute around the entire word digital
Yeah,
or AI literacy. I know Lee Barrett and several of our guests in the past have got very strong views on calling things digital or AI literacy. So, but at least there's something and a framework that's out there
yeah.
to
In my
kind of
work outside of
connect them.
education, I tend to talk about AI fluency in organizations, which it
Mm,
implies a kind of different thing to
I like
literacy.
that.
But it is that same thing. It's like, how do you work with it? How do you work alongside it? How do you maintain ethical and responsible practices that just work slightly differently in the AI world? And then how does it relate to all the other literacy. So they've related this AI literacy is then related across to media literacy, computer science, data science, digital literacy, ethics, design thinking, a whole bunch of other things. And what I love about this, what I absolutely love about this is it is not an academic paper written by a bunch of academics. It is written for a teacher to be able to practically use. Love it for that reason. The illustrations make it easy to understand.
The only thing that's a little bit quirky about it that makes you look twice at it is the one that's Shape AI, because I get Create with AI, Engage AI, Manage AI, but the Shape AI one, which is in quotes in the little diagram, improve AI systems to reflect human values. I love that, but then it's kind of like, well, as a student or a teacher, you're sort of limited to what you can do to improve an AI system.
Hold on there. Let me give you an example that you would have as a user.
Yeah,
you know how
please.
we all love ChatGPT because it's so sycophantic? You know, oh, that idea is brilliant,
Yeah.
Ray. You know, that kind of thing. And so I've gone
Yeah.
in and turned off the sycophancy. I've given it a different personality. Now, that's a very, very non-technical way of shaping the AI that I use. But it would be very easy for me not to do that and to continually be being told what a genius I am.
And I suppose it does back up the stuff that Victoria Headland said, where she was talking about the personalization and the bias. If you can improve AI systems to reflect your own personal values and judgment, and if you were a girl and you would study in physics and you didn't want it to make things pink and make it fluffy, and you wanted actual factual answers for your physics stuff, and you don't want it to make anything up, then you can personalize it around that.
Okay, another report. World Economic Forum, Dan. WEF.
Right, I know
Either
those.
it's a group of organizations that are trying to work out what's happening in the future, or it's a shadowy group of organizations that are trying to define our future.
Yes. They meet at Davos every so often.
As soon as you say Davos, I imagine a Doctor Who bad guy.
I know exactly. So, same.
In there is a framework for assessing education readiness for AI. Now, it starts with the macro, like systems and countries, and goes down to the micro of learning experiences for students. Now, so it's got an AI readiness framework for education, like 16 characteristics across 4 layers. Foundations of data governance, institutional capabilities, like things like academic integrity, stakeholder engagement, pedagogical practices, and learning experiences. Look, I'm going to be super honest with you. I felt this was a policy wonk paper. It's not really for teachers. There will be people that are listening to this podcast going, that's for me. Leon, you're going to love it. Nick Jackson, have a great time with it. But I think for many people, there's some interesting ideas, but my goodness, wrapped up in a lot of complex and academic language. Look, the 2 things I took out of it. They talked about the fact that willingness to learn is now the most key transversal skill that employers are looking for. So transversal skill, there's knowledge skills and transversal skills in this report. So transversal skills are those, what we used to call 21st century skills or soft skills or whatever. That willingness to learn is in nearly 20% of all job ads in Europe. It's ahead of collaboration and proactivity and all those other words. That is great news. Employers are looking for people that just want to learn. And I think that, we've been talking about lifelong learning for forever. Employers are now saying lifelong learning is a core skill that we are looking for people for. So jump there. If you're an education institution, how do you take advantage and how do you deliver against that requirement? Now, the second thing is they mapped different industries about their AI intensity. So this AI intensity thing was looking at people working in that sector. How much does AI turn up in their AI profile, in their skills and qualifications?
I'm looking at the graph.
The intensive sector is technology. The second most intensive is education. And Dan, when we started this podcast, education was the most intensive AI sector.
Yes, I see that.
So that's right. I think that's really fascinating. If you're working in education, do you feel like you are in an industry that is at the absolute cutting edge of AI. You probably don't feel like it. You probably feel a little bit more like a victim because all these darn students have got their hands on it. But it is really interesting that what we're doing in education is taking advantage of it and probably integrating it into practice a little more than in many other industries.
Mm. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's
more.
really interesting. Yeah, cool. There's another piece now on AI in higher education research in Australia. So it's a big
Yeah,
survey of
and
students
again,
again,
what I've
right?
tried to do is find what is different and what is the same. So basically, this is some
Yeah.
researchers across the 4 very large universities in Australia. They did a survey 2024. They've now updated it to 2026. 10,000 students. So this is a good sample. Um, there's a heap of
Wow,
data in
that's
there, and they've
huge.
only
Yeah.
just published the preliminaries. Some things haven't changed. The students who don't use AI, that number has not gone up, despite it becoming a bit more of a better to people. The number who use it daily has gone up. It was 13%. It's now 20%. Well, that's kind of in the noise.
Yeah.
The number that use it weekly, or at least weekly, has now gone from just a minority to just a majority. So over half of students are now
Mm.
using it weekly, and they are using it for the same things we learn elsewhere: editing, improving writing, generating
Yeah.
ideas, teaching them how to do something, all of that.
Yeah.
Now,
Great.
yeah, well, last time the top use was answer my questions. Now that's number 3 or number
Mm.
4. And writing was
Right.
number 2. It's now number 1. Okay, so this is
Mm.
both good and bad. Students are realizing it's not just Google. You don't just go there, type in a question, and get an answer and go somewhere else. But how are they using it for writing, and what are they using it for writing is probably the question that comes out of it. We'll find out.
Yeah.
The other use is, I think, interesting is that they use it to summarize course content. So here's my materials. Can you help me understand these in a different way? And this is
Mm. Yeah.
1/3 of students
Definitely.
say that they use AI often or always to summarize course materials.
Mm.
The same proportion also use it to summarize, like if they've got a project where they've got to read some text in order to do some work on
Mm.
it. The same proportions either read the AI summary first or read the original text first, which I think is interesting
Right.
because I think
Yeah.
you
Okay.
get different
Yeah.
things out of reading something yourself or getting AI to read it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, you can go into the detail with that, but it's really
Yeah,
good
yeah.
statistics that
But
are coming out, and positives and negatives, right? And I think that's the thing. People are starting to realize that they can use AI now to support their writing process more than
okay, so
just like
let's switch
simply
country
read.
again. Let's go over to the US. The Lumina Foundation and Gallup did some research, AI in higher education. They
Okay.
described it as widespread use, unclear rules. So their use number was 87%. So 87% of students. Now remember, we've had 2 numbers already, 85 and 85.
Yeah.
So we know we're in the
Yeah.
ballpark. 9 out of 10 students in
Yeah.
whichever country, in whichever age range, are using AI on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, but they're using it. 57% use
Yes.
it daily or weekly. So 42% of students say that their college discourages AI use, and 11% say they
Yeah.
prohibit it for schoolwork. That doesn't change very much. The humanities have got about the same ban rate as science. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
48% of students, so half of students that are at colleges that discourage it, still use it daily or weekly. So
Okay. Right. So they're still
telling them
using
not
it, even
to,
though they're getting
I
discouraged
mean,
from.
I don't know. We
Yeah.
know from the marshmallow test. Put a marshmallow in front of me and tell me not to eat it, Dan. You know what I'm going to do. And the other half of the
Mm.
students say that either some or all of their courses don't have clear policies.
Yeah, which is standard. The
Hmm.
interesting one was the last point here, though. 16% of students have changed a major or field of study because of the
Yeah.
impact AI might have. Wow, that's people are it's
Yes.
moving so quickly.
Yeah, and they'll
People are
be
worried
getting
about
advice from
careers
other
now.
people. Well, don't go be in a call center. Or the advice I give people is maybe don't be a copywriter because there are going to be a lot less jobs in that area, or you're going to have to be absolutely top of your game be able to make decent money.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
lots of different research giving us some ballpark numbers that are all in about the same place. The two overwhelming things that come out from all of the research and have done for the last year, kind of 9 out of 10 students are using it, and they are confused because they are not being given clear guidance in their school, their university, wherever they're studying about how they're allowed to use it.
Yep, and that's still the theme.
Okay, now we're going around the world, Dan. Next one, Australia. Again. Yeah, so
Oh,
TEXA
it's
is the
Texa. Yay!
regulator for universities in Australia. They have new guidance about detecting AI in student assignments. So they have been focused on this academic integrity piece, pretty much as the AI agenda on regulation has been about academic integrity for, I'd say, at least the last 2 years. They just updated their advice about the use of AI in student assessments. And what do you do about securing take home written assessments? That's where the real issue is. When you supervise a student taking an exam in an exam hall, it's a very different picture from, hey, take this home and hand it in
Yeah,
next week.
of
So
course.
they laid out a few strategies. There are 2 core strategies that they're recommending. One is require the student to keep a record of their work, a version history. Word, Google Docs, all of those can show you the process. Because the process shouldn't be, I opened the document, I did one paste, and I closed the document. There should be some, oh, well, I was working on
Yeah.
this, and then I updated this. So that's now becoming something they're recommending, that you ask students to keep that tracking, and then they can show it to you if you have a doubt. Or the other recommendation is use a specific tool that has been built to do that. So Cadmus have it, Inktrail have it, Turnitin has Clarity, which basically does that watching process. So now we get.
Yeah. I'm not sure I feel. So are you saying? So I'm just thinking there. Are you saying some of those tools actually, like, almost proctor you when you work in? So they'll say, "Hey, Dan, I could see that you were using this and you've pasted
Well, look,
something
they're
in."
proctoring somebody.
Yeah.
Is it you behind the keyboard? They're not getting down to that
Yeah.
level like the proctoring systems do. But it does give you
Right.
some
Yeah.
bit of confidence that the work was done in a series of stages rather than ask AI and paste it in. They write about AI detectors, and their conclusion is you can't use the AI score from an AI detector. That is not enough to bring allegations of misconduct. For me, it's like, if it was a speed camera, it misses half of the traffic that passes it speeding, and then randomly, once every 100 times, it takes a flash and tells that one car. It kind of almost feels like that. They don't put it that way, but they are recommended away from
Yeah.
using it. And they also point out that students use AI humanizers that bypasses the detectors anyway. But then they wrote this bit.
So they said in a clear signs of Gen AI use written
Yeah.
in
Okay. So
assessments.
Dan,
Wow.
one of the clear
Yeah.
signs is the prompt is in the document. I mean, yep, that is definitely. And I've seen academic papers, research papers that have the prompt pasted into the document. So, absolutely right. The second clear sign, students can't answer questions about their assignment content. I'm not sure that's a clear sign, but it's an indicator, because I've probably written assignments that I couldn't remember the next day. And
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
clear sign,
True.
Dan, is apparently if students admit using AI. It's a very
Good.
clear
Well,
sign.
yes. Pretty clear. Yeah, yeah,
What
it is,
what it
isn't it? But it is a good point, though, isn't it? Because some people do the first point you made there. Some people do copy and paste the things that come out to then, and in the response, it might say things at the end of the text like, "Would you want me to write that for you in a formal paragraph or something?" And obviously, students just copy an entire thing
So,
in
so
and
we're back
paste
to,
it in.
there is no absolute mechanism for take home written assignments. We're back to
Mm,
the University of Sydney approach of 2 lane. There's either invigilated and
mm.
proctored, or there's everything else. There isn't
Yeah,
a good way to do it. But what is nice is that this is the regulator kind of saying that. And so,
yeah.
again, it forces people to think through the implications. Now, Dan, you
Mm,
shared the next report with me, which was preparing students
yeah.
for the future of work, that came from Microsoft. So tell me about it.
So this is a Microsoft-led paper. You can download it. It's been presented at ISTE at the minute, but I suppose what it picks up is 5 foundations for reshaping like the
Yep.
future of education and AI. So it's interesting because it's talking about reshaping the future of, or what it means for thinking about entry level
Yep.
expectations for employers. It's the frontier narrative about, are you good, which we talked about a while ago. Are you
Hmm.
mature enough to be an agent boss? Are you thinking about it in your work when you're going through that you're going to be managing agents to
Yep.
support your work? Things about judgment and your
Hmm.
human-centered approach to all of that, and then credentials and the links to that. It does point to the OECD human flourishing framework, which you can listen back to Pazzy's episode, I suppose, to listen in there. And it's got some competencies in there around adaptive problem solving, ethical use, and understanding the
Right.
world, and those human flourishing concepts.
Yeah. So the bit that I thought was sparvelous was That's an
Oh
in
yeah,
joke
yeah,
for one listener in North America. I thought the bit that was marvelous was the bit that I thought was great for teachers. There is a section called the Field Guide by Industry. And what it does is it talks about what AI readiness looks like in the careers that students are preparing for. If you're
yeah.
preparing to go and work in the healthcare sector, what does AI readiness mean for you as a student to prepare for that? And then for the industries that they cover, they then link some ideas about what could you do with your students to prepare them for the current practice in that industry. And the industries it covers
Mm.
are cybersecurity, education, the finance sector, the healthcare sector, if you're going into marketing, public sector, research, software development, and sports. So if you're teaching in any of those areas, I'd
Yeah.
say it's a great report to download because it'll just give you some pointers for what is happening in those industries and then some ideas of exercises you might do with your students that helps them.
And also, if you're deploying AI in your school, for example, and training teachers, often that I get called in because the PDHP, like the sport department, want to look at AI in their context, or another department want to bring it in, and it might be interesting to look at those components as part of your curriculum
The
design as
last
well.
bit of market data or AI stuff was QS, Quarelli Simmons, have created the World Future Skills Index. Now, QS, they do some of the university ranking tables where, they put the
Oh, okay.
universities, like in the 2027 table that's just come out, UNSW has moved to the top position in Australia. So they've taken some of that data and said, oh, well, what we need to do is rank countries. Forget ranking universities. Now we need a country ranking. And
All
so they
right.
have ranked based on skills alignment for AI, academic readiness, future of work, and economic transformation.
Oh, hold on then. So like when I'd be thinking about this generally and universities, I'd go America,
Mm-hmm.
UK at the top. Like I'm guessing Australia will be quite far down, and then another European country or maybe something emerging. And
Right.
countries are tricky. I'm not an expert in the higher ed market, but I definitely go USA,
Yeah.
UK, USA, and then
So the
you'll start
sleeping giant in the
deviating.
university league tables is China because they are getting really good at
Mm.
publishing research and that moves you rapidly up the rankings. But this table,
Yeah, I was going to suggest China, but I didn't know whether it was going to be, because they probably got quite a lot of research coming up because we've shared some
yeah.
of the
So
research on the
but
podcast, right?
this looks at the university or academic factor is one of the things that they look at. So they're also looking at the economic readiness, like what's the GDP like and how's it changing in the country, things like that. Okay, so the top
Okay.
5 countries, Dan. Number 1 is the USA. Number 2 is
Okay.
Australia. Number
What?
3
Wow.
is the UK. Number 4 is Germany.
Okay.
And number 5 is Canada.
Hmm.
Now, Dan, by
Right.
weird
Wow.
coincidence, or perhaps by design, guess where the top 5 countries are for our listeners in the podcast? Number 1 is USA, number 2 is
USA.
Australia, number 3
Australia.
is the UK, Germany and Canada swap round. Either, Dan, people are more prepared because they listen to us, or they listen to us because they're more prepared.
That's brilliant. That's really interesting, isn't it? Because when you're reading those out, and we're thinking about also the research that we've come across, I know there was
Hmm.
some from Canada, which had come through previously. I can't remember any German ones, but yeah, that's interesting.
There's a lot of data in there, and people use it to put out the press releases going, we're number one or whatever. But when I went through it,
Yeah.
the big thing I found is they have identified there is a gap between employers and universities in human skills. So, not such a big gap in technical skills. You want to be an engineer, you've got the engineering skills, you've learned those at university. What they are saying is there is a gap between employers and universities about the human skills of their graduates. Yeah, so it's probably not a surprise because, again, you go into a legal course, you're going to be taught law. You go into an engineering course, you're going to be taught engineering. But there is this huge gap. I had a conversation when I was down in Adelaide last week with my Uber driver who had studied civil engineering, got a postgraduate degree. He'd applied for 580 jobs. He'd interviewed for 48. He got a second interview for 27 of them. The really interesting thing is, throughout his university course, they had never once prepared him for applying for a job. No advice about how to write your resume, no advice about how to perform in an interview. And so that gap is now being shown up in research like this around students aren't able to demonstrate their human capabilities because they've been really focused on the technical capabilities.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Lots and lots of data we've just talked about. Here's what I think it means. We are in a period of rapid change, and technology and AI happens to be the catalyst. But there's some really basic questions here. Like the World Economic Forum report had a paragraph that I think hits the context just right. It said, schools do more than transmit knowledge. They train the brain to work with it. When learners consistently bypass that process, they bypass the neural consolidation that makes future learning possible. Now, that's a fundamental point around if students are using AI to bypass the learning process, then they are not going to learn. And there was another piece of research we'll talk about in a future episode around never skilling, like students recognizing that some of their peers never actually do any of the learning because they just offload the whole thing to AI. There's this gap between employers and universities around the human skills that we're going to need. And it is very clear from all the research we're starting to see that these human skills are going to become the differentiator for people in the future around employability, around having a satisfactory life because you still have a focus on a role rather than your role being to either disappearing to AI or your simple job is to tick box AI doing things.
But ironically, the stuff that's come out as well today is that 8 out of 10 students are using AI, and the numbers are corroborating in the different studies here, and they're kind of getting quite similar. But then this lack of training comes in. So even though we're thinking about the human side to it, we're also missing out on supporting and training people, in all areas around.
And back to that thing that we've talked about a few times over the years, which is the role of the teacher is changing, and it's about giving students motivation to learn. Because not only does that make your job easier, but that becomes really important to them because employers are looking for that attribute. One. Secondly, we're in a period of constant change. So if you don't have the ability to unlearn and relearn, and you don't have the motivation to unlearn and relearn, what do you do? There's too many times when your reaction to an education process is, thank goodness that's over. Like you finish your HSC exams, it's like, thank goodness, let's go celebrate. And what we actually want is my favorite TV program, The West Wing, from 27 years ago. What was Jeb Bartlett? The president's line was always, what's next? That's what we need in education. It's like, I've mastered this thing, what's next? I've just finished an online course on my phone.
Very true.
And my very next question is, okay, which one am I going to go and do next? How do we get that motivation driven into the mindset of our students?
Yeah, and adults in the population as well, to think about where they're going and whether that's positive or negative, but just an appreciation of all of these considerations as we go. So, what a brilliant episode!
Dan,
I loved it. There's a lot there.
We got compared to Waldorf and Stanton in one of the comments online this week. I'm not sure which one is you and which one is me, but I kind of feel like we've just done that. We've just gone on a ramble.
Oh, that's brilliant. No, it's been brilliant. Thanks again, Ray, for pulling some of those things together. Thank you. Cheers.